now releasing all goblins.
This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. If you're looking for cards in the US, look no further as you can use the promo code MTGMudsta to get you 5% off anything on the site. You can also use the promo code MTGMudsta for 5% off your orders from Face-to-Face Games, Canada's largest Magic the Gathering store, with qualified orders getting free shipping Canada-wide. And if you just want to help out the channel, you can always consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month and join the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game was another studio one, with Nick playing Kosei, MJ playing Ziatora, Max playing Jetmir, and I'm playing Shorikai. I win the die roll and start us off. I play a tap Prairie Stream, passing. Max plays a Taiga and casts Soul Ring. Nick plays a Mosswort Bridge, which comes in tapped and hides away a card. MJ has a Bojuka Bog for turn, and as it comes in, exiles Max's non-existent graveyard. I play a Plains and pass to Max. Max has a Forest and casts a Bloodbraid Elf. He gets to Cascade, revealing until he hits an Elysian Caryatid, which in MJ's mind totally justifies them targeting him with the Bojuka Bog. With nothing else, Max passes. Nick has a Forest for turn and casts fan favorite Sword of the Anime. MJ has a Swamp and casts a Mana Crypt. They then tap enough for a Phyrexian Arena and pass. I have an Island for turn and cast Esper Sentinel. I then bring out an Unsettled Mariner and pass back to Max. Max shocks out a Stomping Grounds and then taps his lands and Soul Ring to cast Jetmir. He taps the Caryatid plus uses one floating from the ring for a Paradise Druid. His creatures now have +1/+0 in Vigilance thanks to Jetmir. Going to combat, the Bloodbraid Elf hits MJ for 4. Nick plays a Forest for turn and taps 3 mana for Kosei. He then passes turn. MJ calls their flip correctly, but still takes one from the Phyrexian Arena, drawing from it and then for turn. They play their copy of Taiga and float one from the Mana Crypt as they cast a Nature's Lore. They pay the one for the Sentinel trigger and go into their library, finding a Bayou for the field. Once they're done searching for a land, they go back in using Demonic Tutor to find a Soul Ring which they'll cast and pass to me. I draw and play a Palladium Mirror. I just keep my creatures back though and pass to Max. Max plays a Kessig Wolfrun as his land for turn and casts a Reclamation Sage in his main phase. It enters, blowing up MJ's arena. 4 mana then gets Max a Core Sanctifier kicked, and as it enters, he blows up my Palladium Mirror. Max's stuff now gets +2/+0, Vigilance, and Trample thanks to Jetmir. Going to combat, Jetmir goes at Nick, the Paradise Druid goes at MJ, and the Bloodbraid Elf goes at me. Nick and MJ take their hits, while I block with the Mariner, but still take some Trample over damage. Nick draws and plays a Forest. He gears up Kosei with the Sword of the Anime and wants to attack. He goes at me, finding a Forest and dealing 1 commander damage. MJ flips for the Mana Crypt and calls it correctly, not taking damage. They then cast a Primal Vigor and follow up with a Blood Artist, realizing as they cast the Artist to pay for the Sentinel trigger. With nothing else, they pass. My turn is very quick as I untap, draw, and pass turn. Max draws and casts an Avacyn's Pilgrim in his main phase, and is now back at 6 creatures for Jetmir's second pump. He goes at Nick with Jetmir, and 2 creatures apiece at MJ and I. Before blocks, I cast Swords to Plowshares and target Jetmir. Max responds, casting Return of the Wildspeaker, picking the mode to draw 7 cards. Nick responds to this by casting Ancient Animus, having Kosei fight the Caryatid. This will give Kosei a +1/+1 counter, which is doubled from the Primal Vigor, and the fighting then takes out the Caryatid. Jetmir then loses the +1/+0 and trample pump, which means that Max will only draw 6 cards, and gains 6 life as Jetmir is exiled. We all then take the hits since they're much smaller, and Max's second main phase has him casting 3 visits and passing while searching for a land. Nick plays a forest and casts Hydra's Growth onto his commander. He pays the 1 for the Sentinel, and adds 2 +1/+1 counters to his commander, which actually become 4 because of Primal Vigor. He now has an active Kosei, being equipped, enchanted, and having a +1/+1 counter onto it. He swings Kosei at me and goes to find a forest, while I block with the Sentinel. With the Sentinel dying, MJ gets a trigger from the Blood Artist and drains Max for 1. Nick then plays the Ozolith and passes. MJ loses their mana crypt flip, taking 3, and draws for turn. They then play Ziatora in their main phase, and pass through their phases, and during their end step, don't throw anything at anyone. I untap and draw. I play an Exotic Orchard, and cast Shorikai before passing to Max. Max has a Plains for turn, and recast Jetmir. He moves to combat, swinging 2 at me and 2 at Nick. He then reverses what goes where, and we both take our hits. At this point I realize that Max has somehow put us all to 27, which I think is pretty cute. I just want to say that we're all at 27, which is kind of cute.
Wow.
So, except for Max.
That's just not true.
In his second main phase, Max then casts a Generous Gift and targets Kosei. Nick is ready to save his commander though, casting a Snakeskin Veil to give it hexproof, and another +1/+1 counter, which is doubled. With nothing else, Max passes. Nick doubles the counters on Kosei on his upkeep thanks to Hydra's Growth, which in turn is doubled because of the Primal Vigor. He then looks at the card hidden away under Mosswar Bridge, and is pretty excited. He pays the 1 green to activate the bridge, and casts Shape of the Wittigo, targeting Kosei. This will add 6 +1/+1 counters to it, which is again doubled thanks to MJ's Primal Vigor, making it 12. He goes to combat, swinging Kosei at me. He gets to find a forest first, and I then take 31 commander damage. Since Kosei has all of the requirements met, this also means that 31 damage is dealt to Max and MJ. This has MJ and I both dying, while Nick gets to draw 31 cards, and Max drops to a surprisingly low life in 1 swing. In his second main phase, Nick then casts Inscription of Abundance, and kicks it, picking the mode to have Kosei fight Jetmir, and gains life equal to the greatest power, which has him gaining 31 life. He then plays a Fintorn Elves, and passes, but has to discard down to hand size because surprisingly, he didn't expect he'd be drawing half of his library all at once. Max untaps and draws. He counts up his mana and casts a Nature's Lore, going to find a forest from his library. He follows up with the Fires of Yavimaya, and goes at Nick with Core Sanctifiers and the Reclamation Sage, dealing 4. Max then casts a Skull Clamp, and he equips it onto the Reclamation Sage, drawing 2 as the elf dies. He then plays a Command Tower, and passes. Nick puts a counter onto Kosei with the Shape Trigger, and then resolves the Hydra's Growth, doubling all the +1/+1 counters. I think at this point he almost runs out of D6s, and he moves to his main phase, enchanting Kosei with Prodigious Growth, giving it a further +7/+7, but more importantly Trample. He moves to combat, and Max responds by casting Naya Charm and targets Nick to tap all of his creatures. With nothing else, Nick passes. Max untaps and draws. He asks how much Jetmir has damaged Nick, but it's only 7 sadly. Max then plays a Spine Rock Knoll, hiding away a card under it. He counts up his mana, but realizes there's not much he can do with his hand. He taps the Pilgrim to clamp it, drawing 2. And then does the same for the Paradise Druid, drawing 2 more. Sadly, none of the cards are removal or wipes, and he scoops up the game to Nick and his massive Kosei. Game review time. I think the biggest MVP for Nick's deck this game was one that wasn't even in his deck, and that was Primal Vigor. My goodness, did that help get Kosei out of control so quickly. As far as commanders go, I think Kosei is actually pretty cool. The fact that it does damage to other opponents is pretty sweet, and it helps you draw more cards. I just think the requirements of it having to have all of those pieces attached to it make it a little bit too much to be too good. Jetmir, on the other hand, is just very, very good no matter what you're doing, as it seems like you basically want to play the typical cards you'd find in Naya, i.e. mana dorks, to help get Jetmir out anyway, which in turn has his abilities becoming on, and turns even the lowliest of mana dorks into a giant beater. I don't think MJ was getting exactly what they wanted when they drew, as it seemed like all they were doing was ramping and drawing cards. Speaking of not doing what I wanted to do, my opening hand was 3 lands and a Palladium Mirror, which was way too slow for this game. By the time that Shorikai was even out so I could start filtering some cards, I was basically dead, which is a bit of a shame. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.